Welcome to the next episode of Discipline, Desire, Dedication. My name is Dakota Lang, along co-host Garrett Cotton. I got Gage Heward with us today, founder of Mamba Marketing. So what's up, brother? How are you?
Dude, pumped to be here.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you as well, man. I know we were kind of talking a little bit off air, just kind of, learning a little bit about each other and stuff like that. You've been in the pest control industry for a little while. What you said, 8 summers you knocked?
Yep, 8 years, going on 9.
8 years going on 9. So a lot of experience in the door-to-door for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro, kind of just give us a little background story of yourself, where you're from, how old you are, and we'll just jump right into it.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks again for having me.
Yeah.
Pumped to talk. So, yeah, I'm from Linden, Utah, born and raised. I'm 26 years old right now. I'm the second oldest of 5 kids, and I like to say I was born into door-to-door sales. Like Utah County, is the summer sales capital of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I was about to graduate high school, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to be successful, and success to me looked like a lot of money, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Back then. It's changed a little bit over the years, but so I was about to graduate. I like growing up, I played football, and that was like the big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to go play college football, but we sucked. So that didn't happen. But after my senior season of football, my dad took me to lunch, and he's like, Gage, what do you want to do after high school? And, growing up, it seems so far away that you never think it's actually going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just kind of crazy because I was like, I don't really know. Like, I want to be successful. Like, I don't know. Maybe try college. And he's like, you should probably figure out your plan. I'm like, yeah, you're right. He's like, the 2 things that have made me the most successful in life to this point, number 1 are the books I've read, and number 2 are the people I've met.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you will only change your life if you change who and how you spend your time. And so he's like, remember that stack of books I gave you for Christmas last year that you haven't touched? And they were these old, boring, beat up looking books, and I was like, yeah. He's like, those books have changed my life more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'll tell you what, you haven't read any of them? I'm like, you're right. He's like, I will pay you $10 for every book you read in that stack. And $10 wasn't a lot of money, but my dad's like, stingy or frugal, whatever you want to say. And so I was like, okay, if my dad's actually willing to pay me for these, and it wasn't like the money, it was like the look in his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Like he actually meant what he was saying. I'm like, he's like, if you read these books, come to me, talk to me about it, so I know you're not lying. Like, I'll pay you $10. And they were books like Think and Grow Rich, As a Man Thinketh, The Richest Man in Babylon, The Greatest Salesman in the World, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, like How to Win Friends and Influence People, like the OG books that, everyone talks about, but like not everyone's read,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, those books will change your life. So I went home and I started reading those books. And he also challenged me that day to really be intentional with who I spend my time with. He's like, you will become the average of the 5 people you spend your time with. Like, I would make it a goal to try to interview 1 successful person a week. Mm-hmm. Like, in the ward, your friend's dad, like anyone you can find that you look up to in any area of your life, you should try to learn from and go get proximity with. Mm-hmm. Right? And so that was such great, pivotal advice for me, because I went home and I started reading these books, and it was mind-blowing, the information and what I was learning. I just feel like I just got a new lens on myself and the world from reading those books. And so one of the books was Think and Grow Rich, and it talks about in that book to write a money statement of how much you want to make and by when. Mm-hmm. And I was still in high school, and I had never made more. Every summer, my dad's favorite quote was free time's the devil's time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we always had to have jobs, be in sports. Like we were constantly doing things. My mom and dad would make up chores for us to stay busy, all the time. And so, yeah, like as a lifeguard, the most money I'd ever made was like $3,000 in the summer. Like nothing, like $8 an hour. And what happened was I'm like, how cool would it be to have $30,000 in my checking account by December the following year? So it's December 2016. I'm like, I have $30,000 in my bank account by December of 2017, a year later. And when I set that goal, it was like $1 million. Like,
right.
Like, like when you're in high school, like that amount of money is just insane, like unfathomable amount.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no way I can make that. Right. And it says, write it down and read it multiple times a day. And it was like a 3x5 card. And so I'd read it in my closet. I'd write it down again. And after 3 weeks, like nothing happened. I'm like, I'm not any richer. I don't have any new opportunities. And one time we were trying to hang out with my buddy who was working all the time all of a sudden. And my other friend's like, well, if I was making as much as he was making, I wouldn't want to hang out either because he's killing it.
Yeah.
So I called my buddy the next day and I'm like, dude, what are you doing for work? Because if I didn't read that book and I didn't set that goal, I would have not thought about I wouldn't have thought about it further. But because I had money on my mind and because I was reading every day and I was thinking about it, like that opportunity I jumped on. So I called him. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Our other friend says you're making a ton of money. And he's like, yeah, I'm working with my dad at a call center. We're selling Dish and DirecTV on the phones. And he's like, I'm making pretty good money. And I'm like, well, dude, tell your dad to hire me, because his dad owned the company. I'm like, tell your dad to hire me. I want that job. And he's like, well, we don't hire people in high school.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, dude, I'm different. Like, I'll do whatever. Give me an interview. And then I got the job. And within the first month, because as I was reading these books, it was like The Greatest Salesman in the World, Psychology of Selling, like some of these other books. And I became the top salesman at that little call center within a month.
Really?
Huh.
And it was cool because if they had Dish, we'd switch them to Direct. If they had Direct, we'd switch them to Dish, which was kind of shady.
Yeah.
I don't know how it was working, but it was cool because a lot of these satellite and TV companies, after a year or two, they jump the price a lot. So you could almost always save them money by switching them over and offer more channels or whatever.
So not really a scam. I mean, it's not shady if you think about you're saving people money.
We're saving people money, but what I was saying was shady is like we probably weren't supposed to work with two companies at the same time.
Selling for both.
Like when the DirecTV rep would come to the office, we'd take down all the Dish posters.
Okay, now it's getting shady.
Shove them in the desk. But yeah, dude, so I started doing that. And within a month, the owner of the company, my friend's dad, was like, you're really good at this. You should go out and sell this door to door this summer because I don't have to pay for your leads. You get double the commission and I could pay you to train these other guys and you could get paid an override. And he's like, I bet you can make at least $30,000 in the summer.
Oh, there was your ticket, huh?
And I'm like, holy crap. Like, it's been like 2 months since I read Think and Grow Rich and already I have an opportunity to make that much money in the summer.
Right.
And I was making a couple $100 every day after school, which was awesome. I'm like, if I just did this for 12 months, I'd hit my goal. So I was like, I'm in. Like, I'll graduate high school and I'll go do that. I told my dad that plan. Well, I first talked to my dad. I'm like, Dad, should I go out and do door-to-door sales? Like, what do you think about that? And I've always looked up to my dad. He owns his own financial services business. And he's like, well, I don't know if you know this, but me and your mom actually did 3 summers of door-to-door sales when we were in college. And he's like, I actually learned more in those 3 summers knocking doors than I did an entire 4-year business degree at BYU.
100%.
And he's like, it was awesome. He's like, my best summer, I made 60 grand. I was able to buy a triplex, our first house, start our business, all from the money and the skills that we learned selling. He's like, there's 2 reasons why you should go do door-to-door sales. Number 1 is the money.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, the first step you need to take now that you're graduating high school is to go from an hourly job to some type of results-based commission job. Because in an hourly job, you're capped on how much you make by how many hours you work.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only a certain amount of hours you can work in a week.
That's right.
And I realized that, like, as a lifeguard, I had no incentive to be the best lifeguard because I got paid the same as the worst lifeguard
Right.
there. Mm-hmm. You know, and I wouldn't let people drown, but like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't go above and beyond, you know? And he's like, what's cool about sales is you don't get paid per hour. You get paid what you put in the hour. And the better you are, the more money you make. And he's like, what's cool about door to door is the top guys are making hundreds of thousands, if not millions a year. And the worst guys are still making more than 99% of other hourly jobs they could find.
Mm-hmm.
So like, no matter what, you win on the money side. And he's a finance guy. So he's like, if you can make a ton of money in your late teens, early 20s and live broke and invest the difference, you'll be able to retire faster than all your friends.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my competitive side, just like, yeah, like that'd be sick, right? And he's like, the second reason you should go do sales is the skill set. He's like, I don't care if you want to do sales business as a career or not. This skill set will make you better in any field you go into. If you want to be a doctor, you'll be a better doctor. The ability to articulate and persuade, you know, not only to persuade more clients to use you versus another doctor, but like sell them on why your treatment plan or your surgery is going to benefit them, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all sales.
Yeah.
100%.
So if you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, if you're an accountant, if you're a teacher, you'll be better because you're learning that skill set. Like sales to me is just communication skills, people skills, and no matter what you do in life, you're going to be dealing with humans, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, even if it was an unpaid internship, you should 1,000% go do that job. Like the skill set alone is invaluable. And there's no better place to learn sales than door to door, where you have to talk to people that you don't know. They don't know you.
They didn't expect you.
Right. And they didn't invite you over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to get them to like you and to buy from you like that before they shut the door in your face. Right.
Yep.
And so I was like, all right, Dad, you sold me. Like, I'll go out and do this summer sales job. My cousin had just finished a summer selling pest control with a company called Active.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically heard that he caught wind that I was going to do door to door. And he's like, dude, you need to come sell pest control. It's better, blah, blah, blah. So I met with his regional and I went out and sold pest control that summer. Dude, that first summer, man, I flew out to Columbus, Ohio. Because a normal summer is like May 1st to the end of August. It's like a typical summer sales season. But because I was in high school, I went out like mid-June to mid-August. So 2 months instead of a 4-month summer.
Yeah.
And all my friends, you know, were going on missions. Like I grew up in the church. So everyone's going on missions or senior trips. And I flew to Columbus, Ohio. Didn't know anyone except my cousin on the team. And I didn't even know what we were selling. I thought we were selling bottles of bug spray for the customer to use.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was a service. Like I knew nothing. And dude, yeah, like the first 2 days I just sat in the apartments, was training. And then my third day, shadowed my cousin. I remember he sold a Spanish speaker and I'm like, this doesn't help me at all. I don't even know what's happening.
Yeah.
But dude, just started knocking doors, and that was the most hard, most challenging moment of my life. Like you guys know, so many reps like think they're going to be freaking good at this job, but like sales is a skill set just like any other. You have to dedicate, you know, discipline, dedication, desire.
Yeah, that's right.
To be successful at it. Like it's not a walk in the park. You'll just end up with 30K at the end of the summer. It's not.
Yeah.
Did you end up with 30K at the end of that summer?
Well, yeah. So dude, 3 weeks in, I literally wanted to quit.
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, everyone has moments every day of the summer that they want to quit. But, dude, 3 weeks in, I wasn't having a lot of success. Had like $30 in my bank account. I'm like, I'm going to end up owing money for rent this summer because I'm just not finding success. And I think I was finding success on the phones, but the doors were different because it was in person and I wasn't used to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just hadn't gotten through the learning curve. So I called my dad. I'm sitting on a curb, having a bad day. I remember the account I had sold the day before had canceled. Something like, screw this.
Yeah.
You know, not only do I have 0, I'm -1 now.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm like, Dad, I'm coming home. And he's like, what home?
Oh, there
You
you go.
graduated from high school. Like, if you fly home, if you quit, like, you're not staying here.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy crap. Like,
He burned the boats
he,
for you.
he burned the boats for me, which was the hardest thing, but the best blessing in that moment. Like, he literally didn't make coming home an option, right?
Mm.
He's like, if you come home, you can bum on your friend's couch, but like, you're not staying here.
Mm.
Like, I didn't raise a quitter. Like, you need to simplify the pitch. You need to work the hours and make it happen. I know you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, freak. And
Simplify the pitch.
yeah.
That's truth, though.
That's true.
Yeah. And so I talked to my cousin. I'm like, dude, I'm really struggling. And he's like, Gage, you need to either do this job the right way or go home. I'm like, well, I don't have a home. He's like, you haven't been working hard. You haven't been training every day. You've been negative. Like, you need to do this job and go all in or just go home. And he's like, you need to work the hours. And so right then I just committed. No matter what, when I'm knocking, I'm knocking. I deleted social media on my phone. You know, Game Pigeon was like a big thing back then.
Yeah.
So deleted all of that, all the games on my phone. I even silent my phone while I'm knocking. And I just like committed. No matter what, I wasn't going to take any breaks during knocking hours. I was going to work, walk fast between doors, like just be present in the moment.
Yep.
Because before I was like,
Intent.
you know, I'd knock a door and then check Snapchat stories of my friends or, you know, do the pool, like my turn on pool.
And
right?
then go to the next door.
And they go to the next door. And so I committed to working the hours. I committed to being positive and just saying positive things to myself between doors. Like The Greatest Salesman was a pivotal book for me at that time. And then I committed to training every day. And I'm not just saying like taking notes in the morning meeting. I'm talking like reading the manual on my own time, watching training videos. And not only that, but role playing with the top reps that were finding success on the team, you know, and listening to podcasts and audiobooks on the way to area,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so I just committed to that. I'm like, I'm just going to commit to that, see what happens.
It truly changed. I tell people all the time, nothing changes until you do.
I love that. Yeah.
You know, like if all your habits, Game Pigeon, you're probably playing Game Pigeon right here in Linden.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
going to Columbus, the only thing that changed is your setting.
Right.
You're still the same piece of crap you were over here.
Exactly.
It's until you decide, like, I'm no longer that person.
Yeah. It forced me to level up. Right. And so, yeah, I started doing that. And then slowly but surely, dude, I started to get 1 a day and then 2 a day and then 3 a day and then 4. And then I got a 7 day and then a 20 week. And I was like, holy crap. Now I'm outselling my cousin who brought me out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the coolest, most empowering thing, like getting through that learning curve and finding success. And it was the hardest thing ever, but I started to enjoy the job. You know, like it's so much more fun when you're selling every day
100%.
than when you don't know if you're going to get sales. Like
It
now
gets addicting when you start winning.
right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. And so, yeah, I finished that summer. I sold 150 accounts in 2 months. And
Talk about before
Yeah.
we get off of that. I want you to talk about like your mindset, right?
Mhm.
So you went in there your first 3 weeks, no success.
Yeah.
Right. You're over here. You're playing victim.
Yeah.
Right? You're blaming it probably on everything else. Hood. You're blaming it on everything else. Everybody else not getting the training.
Everyone in Columbus is mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people were getting sales in your team though, right?
Yeah.
Like, everybody was still producing. That's
Not everybody. I mean, there were a few rookies really struggling, like even worse than me. But yeah, definitely there were people succeeding.
But talk about your mindset of whenever, you didn't have the success, right? You did a self-reflection of yourself. Your dad told you there is no home.
Yeah,
You
right.
got to find your own home, which I
Uh-huh.
think that's incredible as well. But also, and then you come back and you commit and you have a lot of success, right? Talk about like that. I would say emotional roller coaster. Right, because right here, 1 week you're way down here at the bottom. Next week, you're out selling the person that recruited you. Right. So it's easy to let your ego expand. Right, thinking that you got it figured out. How did you manage to keep yourself level? Sticking through the process rather than thinking you got it figured out at that point.
Yeah, great question. One of my big mentors is Kobe Bryant. Right.
Okay.
That's why I called my company Mamba Marketing, because I just love the way. How obsessive he is, how dedicated he is, how he wasn't the best in the league when he got to the NBA, but he decided to out-train everybody, and then that led to him being the number one player in the NBA, and then led multiple national championship teams. And so one of the biggest lessons I learned from Kobe is don't let the highs get you too high, don't let the lows get you too low. Try to stay in the middle. And 3 weeks in, I was low dumps, right? Yep. But I just think and this is, I don't know if my dad told me or I read it in a book, but so many reps, especially at the beginning, focus on the outputs, focus on the results. But I'm just hey, no matter what happens, I'm going to just focus on the inputs. What can I control? My favorite theme each summer has been control the controllables. That's all you can control at the end of the day. How many people are you talking to? What time are you getting to area? What time are you leaving area? What are you listening on the way to area? All those things are within your control. How much time are you spending on the pitch? What are you saying to yourself between doors? And so I the greatest salesman in the world talks about good habits are the key to all success in life. And so I'm just going to focus on my freaking habits, and whatever happens, happens. So I just detached from the result for a little bit and just went all in on that. And it just gave me a lot of satisfaction. Even if I didn't like the result, I knew I'd done what I needed to, and tomorrow was another day, and the law of averages was going to work in my favor.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
No, 100%. Absolutely.
A lot of the stuff you're saying is stuff we preach in our office.
Yep.
Yeah.
Focusing on the controllables, the Kobe stuff. I'm sure you've read Winning by Tim Grover and stuff.
Yes, great book.
I use references from it all the time. It's just you mesh with our culture so well.
Yeah.
It's awesome because a lot of the other pest control guys that we've got on don't have as similar of stories. Even for myself. When I came out here to do this, I got on a plane from Louisiana 2 weeks after I got the call. My cousin said I made $8,000 my first month. And I'm like, dude, $600 a week. I didn't even ask what the job was.
Yeah, sign me up.
Didn't even know it was door to door. I got on a plane, came out here, and we're like, all right, we're going to work. And I'm like, okay, let's go to work. I set 6 appointments on my first day of the doors. None ran, right? Nothing ran. They all fell off, all canceled. I started to get appointment flow to start running. They started no going. I had 18 no-goes in a row.
Wow.
Got 18 times in the house and all no-goes. And 3 weeks went by without my first sale. And then I finally get a first sale. It was a couple in Utah that was from Louisiana. So you can imagine how I pitched them. I'm like, no way. We talked for an hour on their front porch.
Y'all talking about LSU.
Yeah. And then they bought windows and canceled the next day.
Yeah.
So 18 appointments to run, 19th closed, 19th canceled. So then, but again, it's just, for me, it was a burn the boats. I moved out here on my own and told myself I'm not going back. So I was in a sense, your dad's mentality of there is no home for me. I have to figure it out here. Ended up persisting, found success after my second month. Almost hit a qualifier month and then moved to Denver. And whenever I got to Denver, that was it was basically a day one for me again. Of this is my chance to really grow and indulge in this position and grow my team and never look back. Just head down, grinded, and now here we are today.
I think there is something to that. Todd Peterson says we only change our life out of either desperation or inspiration.
Yep.
You and me both, dude, we hit rock bottom.
Oh yeah, I wanted to go. I was calling
$30 in my
what
checking
am I doing
account?
here?
Yeah,
my cousin lied to me. That's what I was having on these phone calls.
But I feel that's such a gift to hit that rock bottom, because that's the only thing that forced me to literally burn the boats and also go all in.
Yep.
Because you can't be successful and be 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Nope.
You
I
can't-
fired people before.
Yeah.
They'll be teetering on that line, and I'm like, look, you're doing me better by going to that other company.
Exactly.
Or you're hurting both of us.
Yeah. And the team, right?
Yeah.
Because you're either a light on the team or a darkness. And those guys that are 50-50 on and out, like in and out, aren't helping anyone.
That's right.
And
True.
not even themselves. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I agree with what Cotton said. A lot of stuff that you are saying is exactly what we preach in our office: control the controllables. Right? You can't control the weather. You can't control the hood. You know what I mean? What you can control is your mindset.
Right.
And if you go out there with the intent of, like you said, being intentful on every door, not scrolling through TikTok, making sure that where your feet are planted is where your mindset is. And if you do that, then you will win regardless. It's proven.
And one thing too, so with your experience in going on 9 summers of door to door, so originally for us, it always starts about figure it out for yourself of like implementing those changes. Do you think that your success could attribute to like teaching others to change their lives and things like that, or is it more like what's helped you to grow your business ultimately?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think business is a spiritual game. My first couple years when I transitioned from high producing sales rep to, team leader,
coach,
mentor, like it wasn't natural. Like I think great leaders are made, not born. And dude, I was a terrible leader, out of the gate. Like my mindset my first year leading was like, hey, I can control my sales. I can't control what they do. Whatever they do is bonus. I'll help them as I can, but my sales are my priority. Yeah. Which a lot of people, make that same mistake. But I feel like in leadership, it's really 2 things. It's holding your guys to a high standard and connecting with them at a high level. And like for me, my first year leading, I held myself and my guys to a super high standard, but I didn't spend the time building the intimate personal relationships. And so the connection was low. So I was like the dictator leader of like, dude, do this, this, and this, but they're like, F you, because they didn't think I cared about them.
It's got to be reciprocated.
Yeah,
they got to feel like you're willing to, like you want their success too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that's what I kind of like changed is like, I spent more time connecting and building relationships, having fun activities on the weekend where not only could I connect to them, but they could connect to each other. And that's what really flipped the switch. And also like just recruiting and having the intention of like, because when I started Mamba, my goal was to create the best place for reps, where reps sold the most, got paid the highest, had the best retention, and made the most money. But that's not everything. Like pay people socially, emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually. Like, and so that's been my goal is to like pay people in those areas better than any other place. Because if you can pay people in all those areas, even if they get a higher deal somewhere else, they won't leave because you're paying them in all these other ways.
That's an opportunity that you're offering that most places don't.
Well,
you get a job. It's just here's your check, monetary.
Yeah, that's it. Like mentally paying people. Like we do a book club every month. We take a bunch of guys to Tony Robbins events. Like we're doing like stuff that most people aren't doing because it's a way of paying people in other ways.
Yeah, 100%. And Grant Cardone, Sell It Be Sold, he talks about that. A lot of people look at commissions as just money, right? But in reality, commissions is everything. You know what I mean? Friendships. That's a commission because you sold them on your personality. You sold them on who you are. That's what I mean?
We talk in window sales. We want you to be being invited back for a barbecue when you leave that house. It's not just window sales. Like there's 30 different window companies in a 20-mile radius. What's different about us is we're selling, relationship. We're selling, commitment, all the above. So it's awesome though. But it's crazy because hearing your story is just so applicable to like our every single day.
Oh yeah. Well, it's the same success principles, They work in door to door. They work in pest control. They work in windows. They work as an entrepreneur, So
with Mamba Marketing, how long has that been established so far?
Yeah, so I was at Aptiv for 5 years, and then I started Mamba in January of 2022. Okay. So this was our
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, just over 3.
Crazy.
So I'm sure you've learned a lot, opening your own marketing company too. What's some of the biggest struggles that you've had to overcome so far?
That's a good question. I mean, honestly, I feel like the real struggle was when I was at Aptiv my last year, because I feel like some of these companies grow too big too fast, and the quality of the service kind of goes downhill. Because it's hard to scale the right way where you still deliver the same quality of service. And so what happened was, I was recruiting well, had a lot of guys have success. We were getting them to sell a lot, paid them a lot, but retention, like as far as the percentage of the accounts we were getting paid on, just kind of was getting worse and worse. And so I was like, I thought I was going to make this much. I made this much. My guys, same thing. And they started switching to solar, different pest companies, different industries, or leaving the industry completely.
Yeah.
So I was like, holy crap, this sucks. And so the final straw was my wife, who I was dating at the time. She's like, I have 2 nephews coming home from missions. They want to come sell with you. And I'm like, well, don't have them sell with me,
Yeah.
Because I didn't believe it was the best place for my guys anymore.
Can't recruit there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, and I'm like, what am I doing if I'm telling my own future blood to not sell with me here?
Yeah.
And I was almost at this point where I was going to leave door to door completely, and I was going to start a business called The Dip, which is like a cold plunge sauna place, a high end version.
You do that often?
Yeah, I try to go 4 to 7 times a week. There's a place called Plunge.
He just invested in a big cold plunge in Austin, Texas. It's so hot down there.
Yeah,
but he puts his whole team in it. Everybody comes to his house and does cold plunges.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love it. But I went to Casey Baugh because I was in this weird place trying to figure out what my next moves were. And Casey had just left Vivint a year prior, so he was unbiased and an expert in door-to-door. Going back to Think and Grow Rich, it says don't quit anything until you seek expert counsel, right? So I went to him and I told him everything I just told you guys. I'm in this weird position, I don't know what to do. He's like, do not quit door-to-door. He's like, I don't care if you start a side hustle, but don't quit door-to-door until your side hustle pays you more than door-to-door. He's like, you already put 10,000 hours in learning how to sell, recruit, train, and lead. He's like, I never had to worry about my guys getting paid at Vivint. I'm sorry that happened to you. You need to go find a great company for you and your guys or go build one. So I went and tried solar. I went and tried other alarms. And I didn't bring any of my guys with me from the previous company I was at. And I just was like, after trying a bunch of different things, I'm like, pest is awesome. I know how to sell it. I know how to recruit, train it. I'm like, if we could have higher commissions to pay guys, and then we only sold for smaller companies that actually had good retention, we'll make money. And my guys will make money. And if you get your guys to make money, they'll want to come back and bring their friends, right? But if you don't help them make money, they're not going to come back. So that's kind of I feel like Mamba was born out of necessity. And yeah, we partnered with a small pest company. And, my first year doing Mamba, I made more than my best year at Aptiv, which is crazy, with way less reps and everything. And my guys made more and they wanted to come back. And so, yeah, it was awesome. And the reason I called it Mamba is because I felt like, Kobe, again, wasn't the best, became the best, and led the best teams. And I'm like, there's no better word to build a culture around than the Mamba mentality, right? It. And so that's kind of why I called it Mamba, because I'm like, that's the culture we want to build around. Be obsessive, go all in, stay in the middle, all of those things.
That's awesome. Jack wrote us down some questions to kind of bring up.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of ask a couple of these questions and kind of see where that conversation leads to as well. So one of the questions that we have is, you have your own podcast.
Mhm.
What's the name of the podcast?
Proximity is power.
Proximity is
Mhm.
power, right? What inspired you to start your own podcast at such a young age?
It's a great question. So, yeah, going back to that lunch with my dad. So, right after high school, I started trying to interview someone successful once a week. Whether it was my friend's dad that owned a cleaning company that's cleaned all the Walgreens, CVS stores in all the eastern states. They were doing like 30 to 100 million revenue a year. So I started interviewing successful entrepreneurs, successful, husbands, like fathers, like religious leaders that I looked up to, fitness people I looked up to.
Mm-hmm.
I would literally just invite them to lunch and just interview them. And I used to use voice memos on my phone and just record the interview
Yeah.
Right.
to go back through. But where I got the idea for the podcast, I've been listening to podcasts forever.
Mhm.
So I always liked them. But I was at a Tony Robbins event and he was talking about the 6 human needs. And one of the 6 human needs is contribution. And I'm like, if I died today, would I be proud of the contribution and impact that I made?
Mhm.
And the answer was no.
Mm-hmm.
And I had made like an impact on some people's lives, but not many. And it was no. And Tony said to change, you got to take immediate massive action in that new area that you want to implement. And so I'm like, I want to contribute. And so I had the idea for a podcast. I'm like, how cool would it be instead of interviewing these people myself, where it's all, only heard by me, what if I made a podcast where I could share those interviews with the world?
Mm-hmm.
Because those interviews changed my life, just like the books. Like my dad was absolutely right that you only change your life if you change the proximity of the people you surround yourself with.
Yep.
Have you brought your dad on your podcast?
I need to.
That's what I'm saying. I want to meet your dad.
Dude, he's next on the list.
Dad's he's a stud.
He is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I started the podcast and I was thinking of all these different names I could call it. One of them was gauging perspectives.
Okay.
That's so stupid.
Hey, it's
like
catchy.
looking back. But yeah, I'm like, well, why am I starting the podcast? And it's like proximity is power. Proximity for myself and proximity for the audience to learn from people,
Mhm.
And so I looked up that podcast name and it wasn't used yet.
Yeah.
I was shocked because it's a cool name,
Yeah.
Proximity is Power podcast. And yeah, just started interviewing successful people that I looked up to, and it's been a ton of fun.
And do you feel like podcasting has gave you skills that you were able to implement into door to door, and vice versa, door to door help you be more prepared to be a podcaster?
I think yes. I think more what I learn in those podcasts from the guests have helped me more as a leader, as a business owner, as an investor, as a husband than, podcasting itself. But it's definitely taught me listening skills, like to shut your mouth when the person's talking and really listen and learn from everybody,
I feel like one thing that I would attribute to your success is your implementation. Because you're reading these books, your dad is giving you advice, and you're doing the things that I feel like there's no hesitation with you. And we're just meeting you for the first time, but it sounds like as soon as you get that idea, you apply it.
Yeah.
And so that's a big thing that it's massive action. Tony Robbins, you move quick. As soon as somebody talks to you about like do these interviews, how many kids out there would just be like, oh yeah, I should probably do interviews,
and then never do it.
Yeah. And then, but you actually persisted and you tried it. But
that's the thing. Well, knowledge isn't power. Knowledge is only applied power.
That's right.
Like when you listen to anything, this podcast right here, if you're listening to this, like nothing changes if you don't change, like you said. So like, what could you apply already from this podcast into your life tomorrow, even today, like right now?
Yep.
Like pick up these books that I mentioned earlier, start reading them, because like anything you ever listen to, it's like, how can I apply it? How can I apply it? And immediately apply it. Otherwise it's of no value for you and you're an idiot for not using it. But going back to proximity is power, like in those summers, I feel like so many reps and stuff that do sales focus mostly on the mechanics and the strategy of sales. But 80% of success in life in anything is psychology.
Yeah.
So as much time as you're spending on like the pitch and watching training videos, as much, if not more, should be on mindset.
Yes.
And, psychology and being in proximity with people that think differently than you. And that's like the best advice, because like what you tune into is who you turn into.
That's right.
And so like having people, like I said earlier, like you become the average of the 5 people you spend your time with. And like in a given week, let's say I listen to 20 hours in a week of Steve Jobs interviews and autobiographies on Steve Jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm becoming the average of Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
Like in 2025, you can get proximity with anyone. You don't have to meet them.
I say that all the time because I talk about it. I'm like, you are who you surround yourself with,
Yeah.
right? I say, I don't know Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
I don't know David Goggins. I don't know Kobe. I don't know Tim Grover. But if I listen to their podcast every day, every time I get in the car, I'll turn on the Cardone Zone. I'm going to start thinking the way that he thinks. And it's not because we're best friends. It's because I'm surrounding myself with his thought.
Exactly. And who you spend your time with, you start to become, because you start to think like they think, act like they act, say what they see. Say what they say, watch what they watch, read what they read, listen to what they listen to. And if you start to implement the same habits, mindset, psychology of other people, you start to get the same results.
Replicate, don't recreate.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
Literally.
That's awesome, man.
So,
and especially you said you're 26 years old, so you got a
Mm-hmm.
podcast, you got Mamba Marketing.
yeah.
Obviously, you got a lot going on, right? What are some of the things that prevent you from maybe after a long day, working with reps and stuff like that, and still having to go home and do a podcast? What are some of the things that help you prevent from being burnt out?
That's a great question. I mean, your podcast is, desire, discipline, dedication. I think that success in anything starts with desire. And here's the thing is like people get stuck on the how. Mm-hmm. Like in life, there's a gap. There's always a gap from where you are to where you want to be, no mm-hmm. matter what. Like fitness wise, you're here, maybe you want to get here. Financially, you're here, you want to get here. In your relationships, you're here, you want to get here. So in life, there's always a gap, right? First thing you got to figure out is where are you right now? And where do you want to be? It's really where do you want to be? And you got to get crystal clear on where you want. What do you want in life? Mm-hmm. Like what kind of body do you want? What kind of wealth? What kind of job do you want? What kind of relationship do you want? Most people never even define what they want. Mm-hmm. So there's no chance of getting it. If there's no target, you're not going to ever hit it, right? So get clear on what you want most in life. And then after that, you got to ask yourself, do you actually want that? Do you want that more than being comfortable where you're at right now? Yeah. Most people say they want it, but they don't really want it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. They don't want it more than being comfortable where they're at right now. And so that's get clear on what you want and then ask yourself why you want it. Like get clear on why is this much money or is this relationship so important to you? And then after that, it's like, how do you do it? How do you go from making, $600 a week working at Chili's mm-hmm. to $8,000 in a week doing door-to-door sales?
Mm-hmm. Changing habits inside and outside of work.
Yeah. But the how, right? And so many people get stuck on the how of things. But what I've found is change the how to who's done it that you could go copy everything they do to go get it.
Exactly.
Right? And that's what you did. And that's what I love about door-to-door is because you can surround yourself with who's that have done it that you can go copy and implement. And going back to your question of do I get burned out? Dude, no. I am so obsessed with what I ultimately want in life that, and I'm constant, I feel like if you don't have desire or drive in life, 2 things you could start doing. Number 1, change who you spend your time with.
Yeah.
If you're around hungry people, you will get hungrier. And whether that's in person or virtually through podcasts, YouTube, books, like change who you spend your time with, because the more you spend time with people that are hungry, they're ambitious, driven, obsessed. The Grant Cardones, the Tony Robbins, the Ed Miletts, the Tim Grovers, the Kobe's, the more obsessed you'll be with your goals.
Yep.
So that's one. Two is get the result in your head. Everything is spiritually created before it ever is physically created. Like this chair was an idea before it ever became an actual product. Mm-hmm. Same with this microphone, same with the can, the shoes. And so Tony Robbins talks about this, like where you spend your like where focus goes, energy flows. Mm-hmm. And so make it a daily habit to think about your goals, say them out loud every day, and write them down every day. Because if you focus every day and you have habits that get you thinking about your goals, energy will start to pour into that and you will become obsessed with making it happen. And the hows will be easy because you're so obsessed, because you want it more than where you're at right now. Yeah. Because like I have a friend that's obsessed with the NBA, and he's obsessed with the NBA because he works for the Jazz, he's worked for the Nuggets, he watches the ESPN Snapchat story. Yeah. He's watching SportsCenter all the time. So he's obsessed with the NBA, and it's because he spends his time, his money, his energy on that every day. So if you write down your goals every day, you have your vision board and you're thinking about your goals and you're saying them out loud, and you're tuning into good people and books and podcasts, and you're hanging around hungry people, you will run through any wall that's in front of you to go make your goals happen.
Yeah, I agree 100%. We always say if there's anybody, your own family, if they get in your way, you better just push them out,
I've had people quit because of that. Like I tell them, I'm like, dude, if my mom calls me while I'm on the doors, I'm not answering that phone. Like I will answer and I'm like, do not call me from this time to this time. Yeah. It's to the point where my mom would look at my location, and if she sees I'm in a neighborhood, she's not calling me. Because I would blow up on her. Because like you said, where mindset goes, energy flows. Yeah. My mom's calling me, your daddy did this. I'm like, Mom, like I'm in a different state. Like there's nothing I can do at home.
And it gets it takes 20 minutes to get back in a flow state from one interruption. Yeah.
Exactly. But that's commitment, being willing to sacrifice those phone calls and stuff.
Tony Robbins says something really cool. He says, love your family, like your friends, but choose your peer group.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
And if you like when I talk about proximity, I'm not saying like you have to cut people out of your life, but you should limit time with certain people and spend more time with other people. Like I had my friend Blake Erickson on my podcast, and he said 33% of your time should be with people doing better than you that you could learn from. Mm-hmm. 33% of your time should be people at your level that you can collaborate with, and 33% of your time should be with people that you could help, who you used to be. And I think that's a good like gauge on how much of how much you should allocate.
What is what's like your ultimate goal? Like let's say 5-10 years from now. Obviously you're still young, just like us. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? You still plan on doing door-to-door sales, podcasting, stuff like that, or are you kind of wanting to veer out of that as time goes on?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, like, dude, the purpose of my life is to be all that God created me to be, to enjoy becoming the best version of myself, and do all I can to help others do the same. So I don't know where 10 years ahead looks like. I think people overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate where they can be in 10. Right. And so I have no clue where Gage here is going to be 10 years ago. But I'd say ultimately I'm just trying to close the gap from where I am to where I want to be, and just always growing in the key areas of my life. Like health, I'm always trying to get healthier. Wealth, I'm always trying to learn to level up, to earn more, to grow my business better, investments, all of that. Relationships, I'm trying to, make higher quality relationships and then build on the relationships that I really value. And then spiritually, always leveling up, because I feel like in life, so many people focus on like happiness. Mm-hmm. My definition of happiness is progress. Like every year of my life, I feel like I've gotten happier and happier because I'm progressing even more, and it's like exponential, you know?
Right.
Like 5 years ago, if you told me where I am today, I wouldn't have believed it. So like, I don't know where it's going to be, but I'm excited. I'm writing a book right now. One of my top goals is to be best friends with world-class people. Like, how cool would it be to have like Ed Milet's contact, or Grant Cardone, or Alex Hormozy, or Tony Robbins, right? And I'm not there yet, and so I'm slowly adding people like that. Like Brandon Turner, I don't know if you guys are real estate investors, but he was like the Bigger Pockets host. He's written the top books on real estate investing. He was a hero of mine forever, got me into real estate investing. And I literally have his contact on my phone. He was on my podcast, and I was on his podcast. And he's connected to Grant Cardone. He's connected to Patrick Bet-David. He's connected. And so it's just crazy what can happen in life. And so, yeah, sorry, that was a long answer to your question. But yeah, just closing the gap
it's good.
on
It's value.
Yeah,
that's the truth. I mean, that's what we're trying to get to, is like, even through the podcast, is we want to network and meet bigger groups. And, you know, that's the only way that you can really do it at this stage, is like, we have to put ourselves out there, because if people don't know who we are or where we're coming from, then you can't really get in front of them.
But like, how do you become best friends with world-class people? You have to become world-class.
That's right.
And you have to, like, for example, if we wanted Alex Hormozy on our podcast, he'd say no, unless we were so good at podcasting and we leveled up so much and had such quality guests on to where we had a big audience, where he'd want those viewers to come and collaborate, right?
Absolutely.
And so it just makes you think differently. And I want to always, like, the reason I want to be best friends with world-class people is because then I am world-class and I can help my people and the people in my life level up even more. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
So,
yeah, he's got to keep growing.
Yeah,
for sure.
Grow or die.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's it.
I love the saying, if you're not growing, you're shrinking.
Yeah.
You know, so like every day is just working towards that better version of ourselves.
Yeah, it's either one or the other at any point. So,
heck yeah, bro. Well, that was a great podcast. Awesome. I enjoyed it. Right, you got a lot of knowledge for sure. And it's only up from here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the best part, is like, we're talking about, you know, I was asked you like 10-year goal. Well, me and him talk about it all the time. Like, we were sitting on the back porch of his house, and 2 years ago, it was me, him, and 20-year-old Dylan Kerfassi sitting there, me and him riding around knocking doors together. And I was like, dude, what we dreamed is a reality right in front of our face.
Right.
You know what I mean?
We're going to be in Utah in a couple of years.
Yeah.
We're going to be regionals and like working away, and now we're here. You know?
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, manifestation too is a lot of it, you know, because we thought it, you know, just like people thought
you
the
spiritually
idea.
created it. Yeah,
we were like, we're gonna be there, and there was no other option at that time. We didn't give our options of going home or quitting.
But I feel like a lot of people hold themselves back because they're not willing to let themselves think big enough. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like one of the biggest traits to being a top 1%er in this world is you got to believe it. You know what I mean? And you got to, you know, your how, right? How you were giving that analogy is like, you got to think of how I got to get there. You know what I mean?
Extraordinary, as Grant said. You have to think extraordinary. Like, I've already sent him a DM. I want to buy his jet.
Yep.
Grant Cardone, Garrett Cotton. Like, his jet's already got my initials on the back.
Wow,
of it,
I love that.
So I'm manifesting that. That's my life. One of my goals in life is to purchase his jet. I want to be on Grant Cardone. You know, think about being buddies. I'm gonna have to know him a little bit.
Yep.
You know, but one day, you know, it's putting that into thought and belief.
Well, I mean, you sit down at night and I'm like, you know, I got this far in 2 years. You give me 10. You know, like you said, you can't even fathom what will be there in 10 years.
And we didn't have the people in Louisiana that could get us into larger crowds or better people. Because how often you hear of you know, Tony Robbins doing a conference in Louisiana. You know?
It's just not.
Nobody goes down. We party down there, and it's just a different lifestyle. Everybody lives the day by day rather than the bigger picture of bettering yourselves. You know, so people live for the experience down there. But coming up here, this is our open door to where now we saw the potential of growth, and we saw that we can actually obtain those things that we dreamed of. So now it's just investing and doing things like this until we get there.
Yeah, I love it.
Consistent habits.
That's right.
Well, that's the crazy thing is like you only change your life if you change the places you go, the people you meet, and the books you read. And like that's what you did, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what changed. You got out of Louisiana.
I didn't work out. I started working out.
Yeah.
I didn't read.
Yep.
I started reading.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole night. Like in my life, I used to. It is like a 720, like multiple flips is where I'm at today. You know, I mean, I went to college for 5 years, joined a fraternity just for the partying aspect. Did not graduate. You know, so and I learned more in door to door in the 2 years that I've been in the doors than I did in 5 years in college.
Right.
You know, but
at the same time, you know, that experience in college is, you know, how that networking is how we built this. Yeah, why I'm here and why a bunch of our downline is here.
Yep.
You know,
and that's why I love door to door so much is because you can literally take it. Like Casey Boss says, the best form of dignity you can give another human is help them to go from dependence to independence, and like teach them to be financially independent.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you can do as a leader in door to door. And like there's like with giving, there's two types of giving. You can give people to fish or teach people to fish. And like, dude, we're teaching people how to fish, which is like, there's no better feeling in the world than taking a rep who didn't have a lot of direction, didn't really know what he was capable of, but like had like drive to be better, to be more, and like taking that rep and helping him crush life and his dreams. It's the best thing in the world.
One of the little sayings that I like preach in my offices is that if you want to be a millionaire, you have to change the lives of millions of people. For us, what we do on like the door to door industry, we're bringing in new reps and we're changing lives.
Yeah.
But on the alternative, the product we're selling is changing the lives because
the homeowners.
We sell a high quality product that, you know, saves them on energy and change the ways their home lives. It makes it look better, you know. So on both sides of our business, we're changing lives. So that's why it's like, find something like this, persistence plus failure equals success. So it's not about when we get there. It's not about if we get there. It's about when we get there. Yeah.
Cool deal. What, your podcast and stuff's on Instagram and stuff like that?
Yeah, Proximity's Power Podcast. And then, yeah, I'm just Gage Heward. So.
Gage Heward. Yeah, so definitely give him a follow. You got any last words you want to say?
Proximity's Power. Go seriously write down where you want to go and who's done what you're trying to do, and go get proximity. Whether that's reading their book, listening to their interviews, like just do whatever you can to upgrade your proximity. That's the hack in life. Just change who you surround yourself with, and you will change your life.
Absolutely. Heck yeah, bro. Glad to have you on.
This has been fun, guys.
Heck
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we appreciate all of you watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, give Gage a follow, and we'll catch you next time.